Students, welcome to my class in nuclear physics. Today we are going to learn about particle accelerators. So now why do we need particle accelerators? So for this, you see particle accelerators, we need particle accelerators for a number of reasons, but I'm talking about the context of nuclear physics. In nuclear physics, why do we need particle accelerators? We need particle accelerators for a nuclear reaction to happen, because you see we have very simply written like this: x plus x gives y plus y, means x is the target nucleus, x is the incident particle, and this gives rise to the product nucleus and the product particle. But then the process of x combining with capital X, that means the incident particle, which is a small particle, coming reacting with a big particle, is not as easy as mixing in a chemical reaction, because this particle has to enter the nucleus to bring about a change from X to Y, because you see that X is a certain element which has got a certain atomic number here, and when it is converted to Y, it has another atomic number here. So if this is Z, this is Z dash, and this is nothing but a number of protons. So this particle must bring about a change in the number of protons, so it has to enter the nucleus. For this, it has to pass through the Coulomb attraction or repulsion of the surrounding electrons, because you see an element has a nucleus in the center and there are electrons which move about in orbit, so it has to enter here, so it has to come with a great velocity. So to break this or to bring about a change here, it has to come with a great momentum. So mass into velocity is the momentum, and since particles have got very small mass, its velocity must be big so as to create a big momentum. So particles need to be accelerated. That is as simple as this. So for getting information about the nucleus or to bring about a nuclear reaction, we need particle accelerators. There are so many things to be said about particle accelerators: nuclear structure, nuclear force, and all these things. For all these things, to get some information, we need particle accelerators. So this is about why particle accelerators are required. And now I think I have answered the question why we need particle accelerators. Now first, particle accelerators, we'll look at its very simple form now. It's to study what are the basics of particle accelerators, and first of all, it should have an ion source with it. So the particle accelerator itself, there should be a source which will give the charged particle which is to be accelerated. Now while saying this sentence, I forgot to tell one thing, that in particle accelerators only charged particles can be accelerated directly, because particle accelerators are based on the principle of electrostatic attraction or repulsion, so you need charged particles. Now question may arise, when we accelerate a neutron, that means if I use the incident particle as neutron, then how do I accelerate it if I want to accelerate it? See, for neutron acceleration, we need an indirect approach, which is quite complicated, and we will not go to that part here. Neutrons, yes, definitely neutrons can also be accelerated. They are required to be accelerated. For this, indirect methods are used. So for this class, we'll be confine our studies to acceleration of charged particle. So First we'll look at the types required in your syllabus. We have the linear accelerator, the cyclotron, and the Van de Graaff generator. So these three has been mentioned in your undergraduate syllabus. So we'll look at them one by one. First we start with the linear accelerator. So students, in this class I'll be giving an overview of these accelerators. We'll not go too much deep into it. So we'll talk about the first about the linear accelerator. In the linear accelerator, we have a number of first of all, we need to have an ion source, that is a must. So we have an ion source here, which I'll call I, from which the particles to be accelerated will be coming out. Then we'll have a number of cylinders. So these cylinders are actually electrodes, and each cylinder will be longer than the preceding cylinder. See, this is longer than this, then this will have to be, the third one have to be longer than this, this will be again longer, and the process follows like this. So we will actually have a large number of oscillators, of cylindrical electrodes like this. So what are these? These are cylindrical electrodes. That means we will apply positive and negative potential to this. So suppose and what is done is that the alternate cylinders, they are connected to one terminal. So they are joined together, and this again is joined to the one of the poles of a radio frequency. It's also called RF, radio frequency. That means its frequency lies in the radio waves portion. So radio frequency oscillator. That means it will be, once this terminal will be positive, then it will be negative, and so on. And we take the other cylinders like this and connect. There will definitely be another one out here. So we will all connect the alternate cylinders like this to the other terminal. So which means that if these are positive at one time, at that time this and the next to next one, these will be negative. So this is positive, then this is negative, this is negative. If this is positive, then this is negative. If this is positive, the other one is negative, and so on. So this is what happens. Then this whole thing is enclosed within a, cylinder like this. It is enclosed within a cylinder, which I'll not show here actually very nicely. I'm just telling you that this has to be evacuated as much as possible, like this, and we will see how it works. Suppose we want to accelerate so to accelerate a positive charged particle. So what will happen? From this ion source I, a positively charged particle will come out like this. Okay, so this is a positively charged particle like this coming out, and let this be at this moment negative. So this positively charged, the ion will emit it with a certain kinetic energy, because otherwise it will not be able to come. So it comes like this, it reaches here, and here it moves like this, it goes on, because when this is negative, and this is negative. So when it reaches the end, it moves because of its kinetic energy like this, and at the moment when this positively charged particle has covered the length of this first cylinder, I call it suppose C1. When it comes here, the frequency is adjusted in such a way that now this is negative and this is positive, and so this has also become positive. So the positively charged particle will definitely be attracted by this second C2, which is now negative, and this first cylinder, which was positive, it will give it a push because it will repel the charge, positive charge, and C2 will attract it, so that this will jump like this, and in this jump it will gain an attraction, it will gain a velocity. So there will be a force because of this positive charge being attracted by C2, which is a negative charge. Again, since the original velocity with which the particle was moving inside C1 is now been increased, in the same time in which the radio frequency oscillator changes its half time, that means it goes from positive to negative in T/2, as we all know. In time T it completes a full cycle, and in T/2 it's half cycle. So this becomes negative, and by the time it reaches here, now this should become negative, and this should become positive, and this should become negative. So that now the positive ion is pushed, and this is pulled by the third one, C3. But then, since its velocity is now increased, then its velocity in the cylinder C1, this cylinder has to be longer. Otherwise, what will happen that if I would have had the same length of the cylinder as the first cylinder, it would have reached the end of the cylinder, but by that time the time period would not have been changed. So it would not have faced an attractive force from the third cylinder. So that's why, since it's gaining velocity in each of these gaps, so it will move faster in the next cylinder. In this cylinder it will move fast, and so to maintain synchronous movement between the change of polarity of the applied radio frequency voltage, or the AC voltage, and the time taken by the cylinder to move for the charge to move inside the cylinder, what is done is that the cylinder is made longer, and the relation can be derived as to what would be the length of the nth cylinder in relation to the frequency of the oscillator, which we'll do in the second part of today's class.